Welcome to Let's Be Well Together podcast. We're your wellness check-in team. Join us each week or when you can. We enjoy exploring wellness concepts and reminding you to make time for wellness.
This is episode 142.
Hey, welcome back to Let's Be Well Together. I'm Noura Saad. I'm here with John Webster. So John, I was thinking about bucket lists, as walking to work or whatnot. What are some of your bucket list items that you have yet to accomplish or want to maybe do again?
I'm not really a bucket list person, so let me think about it for a minute. There are definitely things I want to do, and so I could put stuff on a bucket list. So why don't you lead first, and then that way it'll give me time to catch up. So what's an example of something on your bucket list?
I'm really putting myself out there. I'm the biggest scaredy cat ever, but the thought of staying at a haunted house, and I know there's so many that are out there, abandoned places and such. The thought would be great. I think I might be able to get through the night, but I don't know if I hear a sound or if I see a movement, I think I'd be the first one out. So
no way.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. In Niagara Falls, you can be walking down the street and there's like a haunted house. You just go in and it's dark and everyone gets scared and they take pictures and you're like, ah. So you're saying you wouldn't go into that?
Oh yeah, no, those like theatrical Halloween haunted houses. Oh no, I do the wax museums and the rides, but those haunted houses, count me out. I'm not doing it.
Really?
I don't like to be startled. To be honest, John, I don't even like to be in a room with balloons. If I know something can pop around me, I'm out, let alone a haunted house.
Okay, so have you had anybody explain to you why that might be, or have you figured it out for yourself, or is it just like, what about movies? Like, do you like scary movies?
No, I'll do some of the gory stuff, but when it comes to ghosts and the paranormal, I can't. No, and it's crazy, John, because I'm so fascinated by it and I want to watch it, and it's. If I have friends or family I'll watch it with, sure. But then I'll regret it so much when I'm alone sleeping or late at night. If I'm up, I'm like, why did I do this to myself?
Why did I watch that?
Yeah. But I find that type of stuff fascinating, especially like old homes and where there's stories, like a house is built on a cemetery, or if, someone was killed in the house. I find that stuff fascinating, but to be a part of it, I'm not there just yet.
Well, you'd love my arguments with Sheila because, basically the answer, Noura, just so you know, is you could be in the middle of a cemetery. You could be in a house where everybody died in the middle of a cemetery, and guess what? There are no ghosts. They just do not exist. But a zillion people out there will tell me I'm wrong. Nobody agrees with me, and neither does Sheila. But in any event, so if it's something that you're scared about, don't you think it's interesting that you're saying it's on your bucket list? Like, why would it be on your bucket list if it's something you're like, oh no, I don't know if I could do it?
Well, there's two reasons. One, because I like to challenge myself, especially in moments where it makes me uncomfortable. And two, because I'm curious. I'd want to know that I want to know that I can say I stayed at a haunted house for a night.
Cool.
Like I want to have that gratification. I don't know that I'll ever get there, but hey, it's on the bucket list for a reason.
Well, one time I tried stand-up comedy at an open mic, and part of it was just for that. So it's like, so I can say to myself, yep, I stood up there in front of people and I tried something.
And John, how did that go?
I thought it went well, but I made some mistakes. It's a long story, but I told a story, which is a different way of doing comedy. And it was because of the way I did it and things hit, a lot of times the funny part hit as I was moving forward. So then people had a hard time. They weren't sure when to laugh. But I got some applause at the end. But more importantly, I stood up there in front of a lot of people and did something I didn't know if I'd be able to do. So I can kind of see where you're coming from.
And you did it. Yes. Hey, I didn't know that. That's a cool fact about you, John.
I'm going to try. I actually am writing more jokes. So someday I will try it again when I have time. But I learned some great lessons, and some of the other amateur comedians and professional comedians who were there gave me some fantastic tips. So I think next time I could do better. But right now I'm really busy, so I don't have time to prepare. But sometime in the next 4 or 5 years, I'm pretty sure I'll start going to some open mics and trying it out again.
Cool. Well, we'll look out for your name, John.
Okay. And right after you go to sleep at night in a haunted house.
Yes.
Okay, so for me, there's one that definitely is the thing on my bucket list. I want to surf. I want to learn how to surf. I don't live anywhere near a place where you can surf. I never have. I've always lived in places like in KW, there's no real bodies of water at all. There's these very small, teeny little lakes. And when I was a kid, I skateboarded, I skied, I've done snowboarding, but there's just something I just know that I love the sea. And I know that in my heart, if I can learn how to surf and I could be riding on a wave on the ocean, I can be riding the ocean, I know I'm going to have feeling this oneness with nature and the planet that's going to make me feel fantastic. So I'm going to do it. But so far, 60 years have gone by and haven't done it. So it's time. That's one of the reasons I try and stay in shape, by the way, so I can keep that dream alive.
Have you ever tried it?
I've never tried it, but I have heard people talk about it. And so, for example, I know enough now that if I ever want to go on a vacation and learn, I'm not going to like go somewhere in there and try for a day to try it. I'm going to go somewhere where I'll be for, say, 10 days, and I'm going to try and do it for an hour or two a day for 7 days, because it's very physically strenuous. And I don't think you can just be out there for 7 hours. So I think I'll have more success if I go a couple hours a day for extended time and hopefully ride a wave.
Hey, that's so cool, John. I see videos of like these massive waves and people, and it's just such a freeing activity to do. I can only imagine how fun that would be. I hope you get to do that someday, John.
When I see people on video or on TV, the expression on their face, like you can just tell that they're in this magical spot. And it's, it's hard, but worthwhile. And I think it's hard to get going, but like once you get going, especially if you know what you're doing. So that's another one. What else you got on your bucket list?
The other one that I can think of is probably going skydiving again. I've done it once and I was terrified before doing it. And it was funny story, John. Just before getting on the plane, I was tying my shoes and I guess everyone got on and I was the last one on. And I'm like, all right, this is good. Well, last one on is first one off. So
oops.
I learned that lesson, 14,000
I'm writing that down.
Yeah.
Last one on, first one out.
Yep. So yeah, I remember that door opening and I was like, oh my gosh, we are so high up. But just like you said with the surfing, John, it's such an invigorating feeling. You feel so free. You just, I would do it again. And I can see why people it's like their hobby and they get into it. And yeah, I'd love to try that again.
I assume when you are doing it for the first time, as soon as you go out, it like opens right away? Or do you have to pull a ripcord as you're falling?
No, you fall for a certain amount of time. And then, at the time I was tandem to somebody else and then they pull the parachute. Perfect. So that free fall they say it's about 60 seconds, but it felt more about 20 to 30. And then the rest of the way down is the parachute, which is
pretty cool though. You did a free fall. Wow. Amazing. So guess what? I was going to go skydiving once and I went out to a place and I spent the whole day there, did all the training. And just before we got to the plane, they said it was too windy. So we couldn't go up that day. So we'd have to come back. So we did our training. And then one thing led to another. And then something happened. And then it got delayed. And then I was filling out something like an insurance application or life insurance. And it talked about excluding for skydiving, which I'd never thought of. And I had kids. And so then I'm like, well, I probably shouldn't. And then someone at work said, don't do it. It's not worth it. Like, and the risk is low, but you don't want to mess your family up like that. And so I never did it. So I've never actually done it. And yeah, I got to do that again too. Maybe when I retire.
Highly recommend it, John. You won't regret it. Although, maybe surf skydiving.
Maybe I can do them both. Both in the same day, like James Bond. Like yes. I'm gonna skydive onto a surfboard.
There you go. It's a new sport. That's awesome.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, I hope you do get to do it again. I guess we're short on time, but just kind of in the same spirit. I grew up in KW, and there's a very small ski hill here. Like for people who actually ski, if they saw it, they say, that's not skiing. That is, but I loved it. I was a kid and I learned how to ski here. And then up in Collingwood, that area, there's bigger hills and they're pretty legit. But what I've never done is ski down a mountain. And I would really like to go to like a big mountain and ski down on a really long run where it goes on and on and on. Again, I think I get that feeling, that beautiful, I love skiing. I love the feeling of gliding on the snow, and I love moguls. So I'd really love a chance to carve through a whole mountain on the way down. That'd be pretty fantastic too. So yeah, even though I wasn't really thinking a bucket list, there's lots more probably on it.
Absolutely. Well, now that I think about it, John, I think we've covered each element of the earth. So, hey, there we go. We're one with nature.
I'm not going to walk on fire.
Fair enough. Yes, we missed that one.
No walking on hot coals for me. I have no interest.
Okay, so here we are about halfway through our 8-week Focus on Facets program. And the idea is to just highlight the 8 areas of wellness that are important to me. And this, of course, fits into the approach to wellness that works well for me. And it might be something you want to explore. There's really 3 steps to my approach. First, identify my categories of wellness. Second, figure out activities that nourish each category. And 3, develop a wellness check-in, where you check in on yourself when you're feeling off. And it's a very practical approach. It's about real things that you can do, thinking of activities that help nourish a category of wellness and then doing those activities. It's about checking in when you're feeling off and thinking, hey, are there things that I'm not doing that in the past have helped me build up an area of wellness? I'm not doing them right now. Maybe I can build them back into my schedule. And we're working away around the logo that I created. A lot of people have named it a wheel. I didn't really think of it in that context when I started, but people call it the wellness wheel. You can find it on our website. We start off with mental, and just in terms of the progression on the wheel, it's mental, artistic, environmental, spiritual, physical, intellectual, economic, and social. And so in weeks 1 to 3, we did mental, artistic, environmental, and today we're talking about spiritual wellness. This could be a source of contention. People might get their backs up because if you do adhere to a particular religious belief, it's very important to you. Some people in that context don't like hearing about others. I'm going to suggest that my approach works whether you're religious or not, and regardless of what religion you adhere to or not. Many people equate spirituality with religion, but I don't. When I was thinking through and writing my book, Accidentally Well, which I invite you to read, it was really, spiritual wellness was really the toughest spot to try and articulate practical things that you can do to build up wellness here if you're not religious. It's just a challenging thing to do. But I did eventually come across some thoughts that I think are useful ones. And this is in the context of those of you who are spiritual but without being religious. Here are some common themes that I found. Searching for purpose and meaning in human existence. Feeling a connectedness to beings outside myself. Accepting that there are things we cannot explain or understand. Having a set of beliefs and knowledge that provide guiding principles. Having a sense of right and wrong with values that guide conduct. Some people call that having a code. Seeking balance between my personal needs with the needs of others. And believing in the possibility of living in harmony with others, the planet, and the universe. And then striving to do that. So if you think of it in that context, there are practical things that you can do to nourish your spiritual wellness. A lot of people on the podcast talk about things like meditation and whatnot. So think about what might work for you. And obviously, if you're religious, embrace your religion. We've had some really interesting chats with guests. One I really enjoyed was episode 16. I spoke with Reverend Jessica Purple Rodella, an atheist minister, and she talked about spirituality in the context of atheism. You might want to listen to that. I've had others, including Reverend Mashiko Bonkai. Clarence Kakaji talked to us about 4 quadrants of spirituality in an indigenous heritage. But the one I want to play during our focus on facets is from episode 90. It's Reverend Nora Fueten. She was diagnosed with terminal cancer in her 80s. And she was willing to talk to us about that, what it felt like to have the diagnosis. That was one interview. And a second was her thoughts about things like spirituality and life as she approached the end. She ended up passing away, but that discussion was such a wonderful one to me She is obviously religious as a reverend of the United Church, but she talked about things in a way that didn't necessarily align with kind of the traditional view. So I hope you enjoy it.
Guests are giving their time, expanding our minds. Hi, it's John Webster, and this is part 2 of our interview of Reverend Nora Fueten. We'll start with a few points from last week and then continue with part 2.
I think the best I can hope for is that it will slow it down.
Okay.
It will not cure it. In fact, he was very clear. This is not curable. I've had a lot of chance to think about what is this about anyway, you know. The fact of the matter is, death is part of life. And we like to pretend that it isn't. We like to put that out of our minds and act as though, of course, we're going to be here forever. And we're always going to be healthy and we're always going to be able to do the things we like to do. But that's simply unrealistic. That's not the way things are.
And it makes me kind of think about living in the moment, appreciating the moment.
Exactly. And that's the main thing. That what we have is today, is this minute right now.
Right.
That's what we have for sure. Every moment is precious, and every person you meet is precious, and every experience you have is precious. You keep that in mind as you're going through. It's not really what it's all about. It probably has more to do with the quality of our, now the Christian word is witness, the way we express in our lives a kind of creative hopefulness. Now, certainly a kind of morality is important, but not the strict kind of morality. A morality that's based on concern and care for the other, whether it's another person or whether it's the earth or what. We need to have that. We need to have that.
Yeah, and if you can start letting go of the ego, I think,
yes.
and you can start feeling more of the community, your perspective can start to change.
That's true. And that has been my experience, as a matter of fact, because I suddenly realized I could not continue as a minister in a church. I was in a church until the middle of June, and then I realized I just do not have the strength to do this anymore. Right. And the same thing is true of my lovely a cappella choir that I've enjoyed so much for 30 years.
And by the way, that means no instruments, right?
That means unaccompanied, okay. Yeah. But actually, we do also do some accompanied. It's a mixture. But when you realize you can't do that anymore, and there is a point at which you start thinking, well, then who am I? You know, if I'm not Noura the minister or Noura the choral director or Noura the Green Party candidate or whatever, who am I, right? But I'm starting to let go of all of that, and it's interesting. And my readings of a man called Richard Rohr have been very helpful on this. He said, you have to let go of that ego stuff, of all of that false self, he calls it, that the stuff that you've been building up and working so hard on, and just recognize that you're cared for and you're loved and that there is beauty all around you and that every moment is precious.
For me too, the other thing that I find if I can let go is, as I mentioned, the connectedness, right? So if I kind of let go of the ego and I start to see what I share with other people, I feel a connectedness to them, or I'm more in tune to the experiences instead of just focusing on what I need. I'm kind of taking in the experiences I'm involved with, and I get more from other people. It's a really interesting feeling.
One of the interesting things for me has to be just to discover that there are a whole bunch of people out there who actually like me very much. And that's good to know. You know, it's a good feeling. But also the connectedness one is very, very important, which is not as easy as you're making it sound.
No, it's not. It means...
Because some people you really don't want to be connected with particularly, you know?
That's true. And I haven't really thought that part of it through yet. But I'm more taking the positives from the people who I'm around.
Yes.
And I start to also feel the connectedness, particularly to nature for some reason. Now that I'm trying to open up a bit more, I feel more at one with nature. And I like doing things that enhance that experience.
I think it was my daughter-in-law on a walk this last weekend who made the comment that, in fact, there is physical proof that what the trees are giving out in the earth or in the air are actually healing properties for people.
Yeah,
so the forest bathing idea that we've heard about is actually well grounded in reality, and that I love to go for a walk. And,
we've mentioned a few times on our show that there was a study I read about. So cortisol is a chemical that, among other things, increases stress, and walking in a forest washes that away. It.
Yes, it does.
What about things like legacy? Do you think about that? Like what you'll leave behind, or are you concerned about that?
Part of the legacy thing is what do you do with all this stuff, but that's not what you're referring to. I don't worry about that.
Okay.
It is what it is. I can't go back and relive my life. I have a really good friend who says to me, Noura, I can't believe that they let you be a United Church minister. So, there's a lot of stuff out there. That had to do with my 20s in those times when I was a little bit less conventional, perhaps. But no, I think that in terms of legacy, now
I was thinking more about, for example, you mentioned when we were chatting about leaving good effect on family.
Absolutely. And I had a
being remembered
wonderful experience. In August, my grandchildren were here with one of my daughters. And I thought, because I know they were listening to this conversation about my illness and so forth, but we weren't discussing that. So I came up with the idea of having a bonfire down by the lake. So organized them to carry some wood down, and we got the fire going, and we sat and enjoyed it. And then I was able to talk about the circle of life, if you want to use that phrase, and the fact that, everybody's life comes to an end sometime, but we celebrate everything that was good about that person's life. And so I was very happy to be able to talk to the kids who are 13 and 10 about that. And I hope they will remember what I said when I get to the point of not being here anymore.
I know for me, when my father passed away, we had notice. And so I had opportunities to talk to him about that type of stuff. And I'm glad I did have that opportunity. I mean, the disadvantage of the so-called lucky person who has a heart attack
yes,
is that they don't get to say that kind of thing.
I know. And there are always bits of unfinished business. I've dealt with that in terms of other people quite often, and it can be extremely painful. But one of the things, and one of the reasons I agreed to be interviewed for this, is that I do think that we need to share our common human experiences.
Exactly.
Because we're all going to face something like this eventually, and there's nothing to be ashamed of or afraid of. It's simply a matter of expressing how it feels and being positive and being thankful, really, really thankful for all the wonderful things that we've had in our lives.
Do you start to think about that? So for example, I one time left a job that was a rough job. Mm-hmm. And as time went by, I forgot all the bad stuff and I only think of the good stuff.
Yeah, right.
What about life in general? Like, are you finding yourself thinking more about the wonderful things that happened to you?
Yes, absolutely. Because I can see that even though there were times that were rough, there was always that sense inside me of wanting to move ahead, and so I'm really, really thankful for that, which led me to so many different interesting aspects of my life. And I have to say that becoming a minister is ideal. It's a perfect job, you pretty well can do whatever you like.
I find that hard to believe.
Well, yeah, okay. But in terms of scheduling and so forth. And it is, you're meeting people at a very important place. When you minister to a family who is losing a loved one, it's a holy time. It is incredibly powerful. And so even though I've been through some rough times one way or another, I don't regret things. There's no point in going back and regretting it, But there's always been a plus side to everything.
There must have been some amazing times in people's lives too, like weddings or
baptisms. Yes.
All the optimism and
yeah. Or baptizing a baby.
Right.
Now that's a wonderful time. Everybody is in this little bundle, all potential.
Do you ever start to think about what you'll miss?
Yes, and oddly enough, I really miss the connection with other people. This week, I actually went to a couple of events. I had to leave in good time because I got terribly tired. But I realized how much that means to me is to just be part of a group doing something. One was a church service, another was a meeting and a sort of webinar type thing, but in person. And both times I thought, oh, yes, I do miss that.
And is that because of the treatment that you're unable to do the same?
Well, my oncologist says your cancer is using up your energy.
Right.
So that's the way it is. I actually feel okay, but then I have to sleep a lot. So, yes, I miss the interaction in person with people, but I also, when I think of not being here anymore and I look outside the window and the leaves are changing color and there are birds flying around and I don't know, there's all the beauty of nature, and then I sit down and play music on the piano that I love and I listen to my record collection and I think, that's all so beautiful. I really don't want to say goodbye to it.
I would have a hard time with that. But, you wonder if when the energy changes, how that might change as well and what you might experience.
Who knows?
So there's a question that we ask every guest. But before I turn to that question, was there anything else you wanted to share of your experience before I turn to it?
I would like to share the fact that having taken the time to explore who I really am, and I'm going to use religious terms, who I really am in terms of God's creation and who God is or what God is, that taking the time to think that through and to be open to whatever insights come, that is really, really helpful when you come to the end.
Well, let me ask you something on that, just a kind of a specific point. I've been, for whatever reason lately, I've been thinking about the concept of the Holy Spirit. Mm-hmm. I've never really been able to figure out what that concept means, but I do also have this concept of kind of the cosmic force and this everlasting energy. What would you say to someone like me who's saying, what the heck, what is the Holy Spirit, and is there a connection?
Oh, I think that actually it's the same thing.
Okay.
The Holy Spirit, in my reading of it, is that spirit which runs through everything, which causes the seed to grow, which causes the individual person to want to explore who they should be, which causes husband and wife to fall in love with each other and have a baby, All of that is the work of the Holy Spirit. Now, it's kind of interesting. I, for a long time, fought the idea of a Trinity. Right. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. That why do we need three and all that sort of thing? Now I'm starting to realize that one of the good things about thinking in those terms is you can call God they.
Right.
So non-gendered, but also many different facets of God. But the Holy Spirit is what is active in our world today and in our lives today, and also in the ongoing evolution of the universe and the cosmos. It's everywhere.
And one thing I forgot to ask, has there been a time where it's scared you, what you're facing?
What I'm afraid of is pain.
Right.
I'm not afraid of being dead, though. No.
That's very interesting. We're at the end of the interview, and thank you so much for sharing your experiences. Mm-hmm. Our podcast is about many areas of wellness, but we don't have enough time in the day to keep them all going at any given time. And I appreciate that asking this question in your context is a little different, but the question we ask every guest is, are you currently neglecting an area of wellness in your life? And if so, can you think of even one thing that you can do to foster wellness in that area?
Obviously, when you're dying, you're just trying
right.
to keep going. The one thing I have been identifying is that because of my fatigue, I tend not to want to do as much physical exercise as I should. And every time I go out for a long walk or go out and weed in the garden, I feel so much better. And I think, why don't I do this all the time, So that's a bit of a battle, because you waken in the morning and you just feel as though you're nailed to the bed and you don't want to get up. But in actual fact, to keep everything running, you have to be physically active. And I prefer to be out of doors if I can, if it's not raining or cold or something.
Well, we're doing this interview at your house.
Yes.
And as I look out the window, I can see why you'd want to be outdoors. It's beautiful here. So
Yes,
I guess
it is.
if you can find some time to go for walks or do some gardening or whatever it is, you'll also, in addition to the physical exercise, you'll get to be with nature, and that probably helps.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Noura.
Thank you.
We hope you're enjoying the show, and we hope you're finding ways to foster wellness in the categories that are important to you. If you like what you're hearing, head to our website, letsbewelltogether.com, and then to the archives page. It includes a quick summary of the different segments of all of our shows back to the start. Have a look and see if there's something interesting you want to listen to, and listen to one of our past episodes. It's me. Am I?
Yeah. Just let me say, flip side of the coin.
Hello, everyone. It's Elise and Steven back with another edition of Flipside. Hey, Steven.
Hey, Elise.
So today, Steven, we were hoping to talk about our roles in the household and how we balance household chores.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's get to that.
Let's get to that. So, it's a tricky time for most couples because, people have to work. So it's not like 50, 60 years ago when typically one member of the family would work and the other would maintain the household. So it's tricky to really balance those household chores together.
Yeah, I don't think you need to mince words. Chores or household tasks are typically not the favorite activity that people want to do with their limited free time.
Exactly. With everyone working full time, what you want to do is relax or take time for your hobbies. So yeah, making time to do it together or balancing it, I think is super important in relationships.
Yeah, fortunately, there is a task that I find somewhat relaxing, and that is cooking.
Okay.
So most nights, I am the one that takes lead on whatever it is that we're making that night. And you are always willing to help out, even though I tell you, no, just relax. I've got this. And you're like, how can I help?
Yeah. I have a hard time just sitting and letting someone do something without helping.
Yeah. So you're the sous chef, as you
That's
say.
right. I like to call myself your sous chef. So I do all the chopping. I'll prep the veggies, and then you put it all together and make it delicious.
And I want to repeat, that is something that I don't say, oh, you need to do this, or we're not doing this at all.
No,
This is something that
you would
take on.
totally do it. I just like to be someone who helps out.
And there's my Zen space, which is the grill.
Oh, yes.
That is where I can go out and it is just me and the outdoors. And I'm at peace and I'm calm and I'm making food. And I love to grill. It doesn't matter what it is. I'll grill meat, I'll grill vegetables, I'll grill the starch, the carb. I'll make flatbread on the grill. I'll make pizzas on the grill.
Yeah, you'll find any excuse to use the grill.
If there's a way to grill it, I want to find it.
Yeah. And we'll look up the weather for the week and then determine how many days this week can we grill and what can we get out there. And it's fantastic.
Yes.
It's such a great way to make food.
Now, I love to cook. Cleaning the pots, pans, the plates, the dishes, that's not my favorite role, unfortunately.
No.
I'm kind of useless when it comes to that.
No, so that's typically a role I take on. I will clean up after dinner and I'll pack our lunches for the next day using our leftovers. And that's something I'm happy to do because you take on so much of the cooking and the thinking about the meals, which is something I'm not very good at. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and then when it comes to the scraps and the trash, I have no problem being in charge of making sure that gets out on the appropriate days.
Exactly.
So I don't mind doing the recycling and the trash and the compost. That's not a problem at all.
No. And then in terms of other household chores, I do think we balance it a lot together. I know often we'll go grocery shopping together.
That's true.
And I think that's really important especially with you being able to plan the meals. It's good for you to see what's on sale, and maybe you'd have better ideas of how we could use it, which is great. But I really like shopping. I would happily do that.
I don't like shopping very much, but I love packing.
Yeah,
I love packing.
you do
groceries.
love packing.
I'm good at it.
It's like a challenge.
Yeah, it is. It's a puzzle.
It is. And then other household chores like the typical cleaning of the bathroom or cleaning of the kitchen. I know we'll take that on kind of as we feel like it needs to be done.
That's true.
Or if we have, surprise guests coming over, we frantically take it on, which is always fun.
Yeah.
But another activity that we love to share is gardening.
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, we're going to be getting our garden in soon, I hope.
I hope so too. Get some vegetables going.
Yes. I should specify when we're talking about gardening, we're talking about our vegetable and herb garden.
Yes.
There's nothing quite like having a tomato that you grew in your garden that's going in tonight's salad or tonight's dinner. It just makes it taste that much better.
Yes. And I think just knowing exactly where it came from and the steps it took, literally the steps from your backyard to your kitchen, it makes me feel so much better about eating it.
Just thinking about it makes me want to kind of jump in there right now. And last year we didn't have a great garden, but I'm really hopeful for this year.
I think we got it.
Well, I think we should do it.
Please remember that we're not providing advice. We hope to inspire you to work towards balance, and we urge you to consult with qualified people if you need advice. The people on the show are speaking in their personal capacities. Their views expressed are their own, and don't represent the views or opinions of their outside contacts, their employers, or anyone else. We try to get things right, but we can't guarantee everything we say is correct, or that the things we talk about will work for you. Let's be well together, and let's be sure to do that in a safe way.
And it's sign-off time. It's Sheila here with Elise and John.
Hello.
Hi.
So it's Thanksgiving here in Canada. I know this is an odd time for Americans for Thanksgiving. They have it later in November, and a lot of other countries don't even celebrate Thanksgiving. But here in Kitchener-Waterloo, we also have Oktoberfest going on. So it is a very festive week this week, which is kind of fun. And the weather's been fabulous too. So we had 3 Thanksgiving events this weekend, which is a little rare for us. We usually just have the one. We've been quite busy. Lots of turkey and food and entertainment. So that's been really nice. But the 2 things I wanted to talk about was I had other groups of parties. I got together with my grade school friends. There's 6 of us. And we went to grade school and then kind of separated in high school and university. And we all ended up back in Kitchener-Waterloo. It's always fun to get together with the girls because we all grew up together and then we separated and now we're back. We're all the same age and kind of going through the same things, parent problems, kids leaving the house, getting married, all that kind of stuff. So it's really fun to get together and I really enjoyed that. So I'm very thankful. And what about you, John? What's new with you?
One thing about Thanksgiving, especially if you're going to multiple events, is it feels like I shouldn't weigh myself because I just keep eating so much stuff. But yesterday was really cool. We went over to Sheila's brother's house and I just had assumed that it was going to be some family. And there were 3 people I never met before. So it was me and Sheila, Greg and Pam, and 3 people I hadn't met. And I thought, okay, well, hopefully we'll have something to talk about. Well, 2 of them are runners who run marathons.
Oh, yes.
The 3rd was an artist.
Yes. That was
so I love talking to artists. So we had a fantastic night last night.
John had
totally unexpected.
a great time talking about runners.
Yes, Sheila wasn't as excited about the running conversations.
But it was really interesting because he ran, 24 or something?
Yes, he runs 24 marathons,
Wow.
including Boston and New York and London, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So that was fun. Mm-hmm. I had a couple breaks too with the podcast recently, which is I'm starting to get more people reaching out to me saying, hey, there's this person who might be a good guest. And so that's really great. So if you know of good guests, you can always reach out to us, find our info on the website to get in touch with us. And also I met someone who's kind of who's a local person and she's connected with different independent podcasters. So going to have a coffee with her and see if we can't figure something out. So that's kind of exciting too. How are you doing, Elise?
I'm doing well. I'm feeling a little tired. I'm grateful to have an extra day off this weekend. We had a really busy week. I had an after school event every day.
No way.
This week. So, which is not very common. And then at 36 weeks pregnant, I think it takes a toll on me. But We had our board game group. We met up with some family for dinner. We had some choreography that I did. And then we also had a baby shower with my workplace friends, which was so kind. Everyone was so generous. We are super, super spoiled. And then we were able to come down for Thanksgiving down to Kitchener. And that was a lovely time. And then on top of all of that, I've gotten a cold. I started with the gastro bug, and now I've got kind of a cough. So I'm feeling a little tired. Hopefully just going to rest up today so that I'm ready for the week ahead.
Well, I have to say that, so we had our family dinner and Elise came and our other kids came and all the significant others, and it felt amazing. My mom and Jill's mom, and I was just sitting at the table having dinner, looking around going, wow, this is so amazing. So hopefully we can continue to get together as everybody gets busier and lives get busier over the years. But for sure, 2024 was a great Thanksgiving dinner.
Amazing. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast, and we will catch up with you next week. That is it for today's show. Please try and make wellness a priority.
You deserve it.
If you feel the need to talk to someone or ask for help, please do that.
Accept yourself for the person you are.
So long.
Adieu.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye.